Hello guys, so today we will talk about Special Olympic swimming events. But first, we will talk a bit about swimming and Special Olympic itself. Swimming is one of the most popular sports in the world. Unlike other sports, swimming is a life skill that is taught first to ensure safety and second for sports and competition purpose. Swimming competition mainly organized based on four types of swimming stroke, which is backstroke, breaststroke, butterfly, and also freestyle. Swimming as part of aquatic events varies from short sprint to longer events and relay. Another type of event that are unique in swimming is the medley individuals and relay events, where for individual medley, they need to execute all four types of strokes. For medley relay, it consists of four swimmers who will each swim a different stroke, ordered as backstroke, breaststroke, butterfly, and freestyle. Special Olympic is a sport organization for children and adults with intellectual disabilities and physical disabilities, providing year-round training and activities to 5 million participants and unified sports partners in 172 countries. Intellectual disabilities is a term used when a person has certain limitations in cognitive functioning and skills, including communication, social, and self-care skills. These limitations can cause a child to develop and learn more slowly and differently than a typical developed children. Intellectual disability can happen anytime before a child turns 18 years old or even before birth. Intellectual disability is the most common developmental disability. According to American Association of Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, an individual has intellectual disabilities if he or she meets three criteria. First, IQ is below 70 to 75. Second, there are significant limitations in two or more adaptive areas, which are skills that are needed to live, work, and play in the community, such as communications or self-care. And the third one is when the condition manifests itself before the age of 18. Back to Special Olympics, in Asia Pacific region itself, Special Olympics has touched the lives of almost 2.3 million athletes across 35 countries. That includes 1.9 million athletes with intellectual disabilities. Related to swimming, Special Olympics has a close relationship with the Michael Phelps Foundation and the IM Swimming Program, which aid them in terms of training and competition preparation. They are also the one who organize Special Olympics World Games. So, what is that? Special Olympic World Games is an international sporting competition for athletes with intellectual disabilities which had established since 1968. The first host for Special Olympic World Games is Chicago, United States, and the recent host for the Summer World Games is Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates in 2019. The next host for Winter Games in 2022 is not yet announced. For the records, the United States has become the World Game host for 17 times since the first World Games. In Special Olympic World Games, athletes are grouped by age, gender, and ability, which giving everyone a reasonable chance to win. At Special Olympics, there are no world records because each athlete, whether in the fastest or the slowest division, is valued and recognized equally. In every division, all athletes receive an award from gold, silver, and bronze medal to 4th to 8th place ribbons. This idea of equal ability groupings is the foundation for the competition in Special Olympics and can be witnessed at all events, whether it's athletic, aquatics, table tennis, football, skiing, or even gymnastics. All athletes are given an equal chance to participate, perform, and be recognized for doing their best for their teammates, family, friends, and fans. But for these past few years, they also try to make it so that persons without intellectual disabilities can also play together under a unified sports event. In Special Olympic Aquatic, it is divided into three categories, which are fundamental events, individual events, and also relay events. Fundamental events are organized for athletes with low ability level to also enable them to participate in the Special Olympic World Games. For fundamental events, there are 50-meter walk, 50-meter floating, 25-meter floating, 15-meter kickboard, 15-meter assisted swim, 25-meter assisted swim, and 15-meter unassisted swim. For individual events and relay events, the distance varies from 25 meter, 50 meter, 100 meter, 200 meter, 400 meter, 800 meter, and 1500 meter. For individual events, the events are split based on stroke technique. Freestyle has the most individual events, which range from 25 meter to 1500 meter. Meanwhile, backstroke, butterfly, and breaststroke has the same number of individual events, which are 25 meter, 50 meter, 100 meter, and 200 meter. But for individual medley, there are only 3 events, which is 100 meter, 200 meter, and 400 meter distance. For relay events, this is where the unified sports are implemented. Relay events in Special Olympics can be divided into 2 categories, which are freestyle and medley, where freestyle relay events range from 25 meter to 200 meter distance, and it is the same for freestyle unified sports relay. For medley relay events, it is ranged from 25 meter to 100 meter distance only, which also the same for medley unified sports relay events.
Hello everyone. Okay, so for my part, it's going to be about rules and regulation of swimming in Special Olympics. So while I'm going to explain this, we may encounter a few rules which are similar to FINA, which is the International Swimming Federation. Alright, so number one, what we're going to learn first is basically how are these swimmers categorized. Okay, so basically in SO, which is Special Olympics, there are 3 types of groups. So it's basically the main one is physical, and then we will go into visual, hearing loss, and also another reserve group, intellectual disability. Okay, so now when we are talking about physical impairment, they are split into 10 groups. 10 groups from S1 to S10, or it can also be termed as SB or SM. S is basically all the swimming events except breaststroke. SB stands for breaststroke. SM is basically the individual medley races. Okay, it is said that the lower the number, the more severely impaired the swimmer is. So for example, if you're S1, it's basically you are on a wheelchair. For example, if you go into S11 to S13, which is basically visual impairment, S11 is considered severely impaired, S13 is considered a moderate impairment. S14 is saved as a intellectual disability. So for any athletes who are in that category will be under S14. Now, S15 is for swimmers who have hearing loss. If I would explain the whole rules of SO and FINA, it would be really long. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to really simplify the rules and talk about certain rules that are quite interesting and important in SO. So number one is basically in their events. SO actually has a flotation and walking event in swimming. Alright, so in a flotation event, the swimmers are allowed to have a flotation device, okay, provided it's a wraparound type of flotation, because this will actually allow the swimmer to keep his or her head up. Alright, in case of anything, their head are still above the water. When it comes to walking events is really interesting because the water level of the pool should not be more than 1 meter, number one. Second is at least 1 foot should be touching the floor. Okay, so for SO swimming competitions, it's basically there is an individual named the meet referee in the competition itself, and these individuals have the authority to make change of the rules from case to case basis. Okay, because they always have to remember they need to ensure the safety and the well-being of the athletes are always prioritized. Now, another interesting rule about SO swimming is basically their swimwear. So as we know, swimwears in swimming are standardized, but in SO, they are given an exception as long as their permission is granted by the community members. This is when they will actually take account of their medical situation, their culture, and also their religion. On top of those interesting rules about SO swimming, another interesting rule is basically these swimmers who have visual and hearing impairment, they are given 2 types of exception, which is number one, A exception, which is known as an assistance that will actually assist them towards the pool. For T exception is basically known as a tapper. A tapper is where they will actually stand at the end of the pool and they will give signals to the swimmer if they are approaching close to the end of the swimming pool. Now, when we talk about maximal effort of SO swimmers, we have to pay attention to two things. Number one is basically when a swimmer exceeds 15% of their time when it comes to a qualifying time and also a recorded time. They are actually disqualified if they increase or if they perform 15% more. Now, the second one is basically 25%. Okay, 25% and 15%, they hold the same rule, but for different events. Now, these two percentage of increment in performance applies in the same context, but in different events. So, if we talk about the 15% increasement of performance, it is applied in all events 25 meters and above, except for 25 meters freestyle and flotation events. As for 25% of increase in performance, it is basically applies to 25 meters freestyle, 25-meter flotation events. Alright, besides that, there are another two types of swimming events in SO swimming. One is assisted, the other one is unassisted. So when we talk about assisted, is basically you have the coach or a trainer assisting the swimmer whether in or out of the pool. When we talk about unassisted, is basically the coach are allowed to give instructions, just that they cannot be in the pool. Lastly, another thing which I found really interesting about SO swimming is basically they have this thing called Unified Sports Event. This is where two able-bodied swimmers will pair up with two SO swimmers to take part in a relay. And the best part, they can swim in any style and order they want. So that is all what I have to share with you today. Please visit SO or FINA's website to learn more about the rules and regulation of swimming. So have fun and take care. Bye-bye.
Well, hello there. I'm Coach Amar will talk to you about a few essential things on teaching Aquatic Special Olympics. We will go to the next video to learn about how to coach Special Olympic athletes to do a front crawl strokes. Before we start our video, please, these are a few tips to coach the Special Aquatic Olympic athletes. The first tip is we must have basic coaching in all aspects. This includes physiological, psychological, and etc. Second tip is always motivate them because their psychological aspect is very important. The third tip is repeat the skill movement frequently to improve their memory skills, and we must apply appropriate level of instruction. The fourth tip is communicate always with them because communication is the key. And last but not least, and most important thing is be fun because they are fun in the word fundamental. Enough talking, let's go swimming.
Today, I will be demonstrating crawl strokes that is also known as the freestyle. The first step is try to keep your body flat and as near to the surface as possible. This helps to keep you streamlined and makes you glide to the water smoothly. Your kicks should alternate and start at the hip with a slight knee bend. Make the kicks long and fast but with very little splash. Try to kick in the count of 6. You will get into the habit of doing 6 kicks in every arm cycle, which is 3 kicks per arm cycle. Your arms should move alternately. One hand should follow the other into the water above your head. Make spear motion with your arms and your thumb should enter the water first and palms turn facing out. The elbow will first exit the water nice and high. And lastly, step 4, the breathing in front crawl is the hardest to get right. If you can't breathe like the professional, just breathe regularly when turning your head to the side.
That's all from me. I hope you learned on how to teach on Special Aquatic Olympics athletes. Try to make your training as fun as possible, as unique as possible to attract them to train more. That's all. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. So to start my part, I will start it with a question, which actually this question keeps mingle on my mind before I start doing the assignment. So the question is, can individuals without disabilities participate in Special Olympics? So the answer is yes. How? It is through unified swimming events. So what is unified swimming events? Alright, so unified swimming events join people with and without intellectual disabilities on the same team. It is inspired by a simple principle, which is training together and playing together. And this two principle is actually a quick path to friendship and understanding. So, teams are made up of people of similar age and ability. That makes practices more fun and games more challenging and exciting for all. So, I would say from this initiative, Special Olympics can actually raise awareness about the abilities of people with intellectual disabilities or ID. So we can fight negative stereotypes and misperceptions, and we can educate people, young and old, about the skills and gifts of our athletes. So the next question is, do Malaysia have Special Olympic swimming teams? Okay, so before I start, I will tell you the Malaysia official sports of Special Olympics. There are aquatics, athletics, badminton, basketball, bocce, bowling, cycling, floor hockey, football or soccer, snowshoeing, golf, table tennis, netball, cricket, and equestrian. And swimming is actually under the aquatics. So back to the question. Unfortunately, there is not much participation in swimming events of Special Olympic World Games from Malaysia. Why? So before I answer that question, as you can see here, this is taken from the official Instagram of Special Olympic Malaysia. This is a photo of an athlete named Adam Zikri, which actually joined the Special Olympics World Games 2019 for a swimming event and won the third place. As you can see, we only have one participant from our country. I would say the participation for swimming events is not that much for Malaysia. So back to our question, why these things happen? I would say one is because the swimming training itself. Why? As you can see here, this is the article taken from the Special Olympic Selangor official website. As you can see, to April 2019, which is like recently. As you can see, it states that in conjunction with World Autism Day, Special Olympics Selangor kick-started its long-awaited swimming class. So from that phrase itself, we can say that the swimming training is not given enough for them, for the athlete. So they themselves has waited for a long time for the swimming class. But this is actually a good news also to our country, because since they already started swimming class and swimming training, this means that we can develop more athletes in swimming. And next, why these things happen is maybe because of the swimwear itself. So as you can see from previous picture, only one participant, and it is a guy. And why I would say swimwear is related closely to the female, because as we know, most of the Malaysians are Muslim, so we are actually we actually take an important view for the attire so that okay with the religion. And as we know, in Muslims we have to cover our aurat. So most of the part of women's body is actually the aurat. So, but I would say this is not really a big issue now, because although the swimwear must conform with the current FINA rules, but an exception may be granted for medical, cultural, religious, or modesty reasons. So, as you can see from the picture, from the real FINA rules of swimwear, we can adjust it to the new swimwear, which is actually an exception that has been granted based on religious reasons. So I believe that the swimming events for the Special Olympics can be developed more and more after this, since the swimming class and swimming training has been started. So that's